Hello.
Thanks for the smooth sounds of A/B testing.
The smooth sounds of A/B testing. I feel like I just froze as we started the episode, but so
You're
it
back.
goes. I'm
You're
back.
now.
I'm here.
You're back. You're back now. Hello, Alex. How's
Hi,
it going?
Bianca. And welcome everybody in chat to A/B testing. We're so happy you're here.
And welcome to our future viewers, people of the future. Hello.
I like that. Do you think that people in the future are watching us on like 2x speed?
Probably.
If you're watching us on 2x speed, then maybe this sounds normal.
Oh my gosh.
No? Okay. Sorry.
I think I feel like so many people watch things on 2x. I think that's just the wave these days, because I do think sometimes folks are like, all right, get to the point. So speaking of getting to the point, Hello. Today we are live here, A/B testing. Good to see y'all all again. It is Tuesday. Well, it's after 2 p.m. But we're very excited to see y'all again. We have a great guest joining us early, joining us live. But that's not at this moment.
No.
But yeah, we're super excited.
We will be joined soon by an SC Atwilio named Chris Connolly, or he goes by Kano, so we're just going to call him Kano. And he is joining from tomorrow.
Yeah,
he's in Australia.
It's future.
It's 6
themes.
a.m. And
it's basically the future.
Yeah, we'll be diving into how he got to where he is at Twilio. We'll be diving into some of the cool. I mean, this guy builds such cool stuff. Like, he was telling us about some of his builds. I'm excited to talk about it. And we'll be doing a conversation relay demo at the end, because our theme this month is voice AI.
And we gotta knock it into your brains, okay, folks? You might get a quiz at the end of this. Probably not, but hey, if
I like
nothing
that.
else.
Andrew, you're working on a quiz, right? Can we add some stream elements to it? I think we can.
Yeah, we'll do that. Okay, but before we even get started on our show, it's very important for us to sponsored, not sponsored.
Yeah,
because,
the things that we like.
Yeah. I can start.
Yeah.
So I'm sponsored, not sponsored.
Not sponsored by half a smoothie.
Half a smoothie that I had. Garden of Life protein, vanilla, plant-based. Shout out to the Ninja blender. I might switch it up for a Vitamix. But today's vibe was brought to us by a few things. I even added some paleo fiber, resistant starch, good gut health, protein, fiber. It's a vision for today. So, sponsored, not sponsored by Garden of Life, vanilla, plant-based protein. Mm-hmm.
I like that. We had a Ninja, and then I was like, this feels like it's not working like it used to. And then my wife was like, yeah, I got that blender in college. Doesn't surprise me that it's not working like it's supposed to. I was like, okay, we got a Vitamix. It is pretty nice.
I've heard good things.
My sponsored, not sponsored is, I know we talked last week a lot about Waterloo. This is my like bougie soda drink when I want a special treat. And I don't know if anyone's had Olipop before.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, here. Let's get it's got like a glare from the side, but yeah. They've got some really good flavors. Their cola's good. It's like not 0 calorie, but it's low calorie. So there's not like a ton of, I think there's some fake sugar, but not like a ton of actually, I don't know why I even call it fake sugar. It's stevia. But like, there's just some good stuff in it. And I'm the weirdo who like enjoys the, Runts, the banana ones. I love that fake banana flavor. And so I actually really, really love the banana cream, because it's got that same fake banana flavor, which I love. And supposedly is real banana flavor from a type of banana that we were eating a few decades ago. The
sorry, my face.
Gross Mike or Gross Michelle. Like the Big Mike is the one. We have Cavendish is, I believe, our banana right now. And but bananas are weird. They don't like reproduce normally. They're all clones. And so every banana is like basically genetically identical, except for a few. And so like the last one that we had got wiped out by a fungus, and now we have Cavendish. But
my facial expressions are around I am not a banana. I cannot stand bananas.
You don't even like bananas just like as a fruit?
Oh no. Not a fan. I like that is one of my things. As you see, my smoothie did not have a banana in it. That is my.
That's
I'm just
wild.
Like, I know. I am just not. I just.
That's
anyways
wild.
We don't need to start drama on
No.
this early on stream. Last week it was around water. This week it'll be around bananas. But let's find some unity here on this
let's find some
stream.
unity. Let's find some unity and let's bring Chris on.
Yeah, let's do it. Woo!
Oh, you're muted still. We're gonna have to, if you want to click that unmute button.
I have to press twice. I'm sorry.
That's
Hi,
okay.
everyone. How you doing? Good morning. Good afternoon.
Chris, before we get started, what's your opinion on bananas?
Well, I love a banana, but I hate that fake banana taste.
Okay, so we've got multiple opinions going on here. I can respect that.
So
Okay, see?
candied bananas, not my friend.
And
So we're united.
Yeah. And you're calling in from Sydney, Australia.
Yes.
Do you guys get just the and you lived in the US for a while, so is it the same bananas you get in Australia, or do you have like more varieties or different kinds?
We have Cavendish. We grow a lot of bananas in Queensland, in north of Australia. We call them banana benders, the people that live up there. But yeah, it's Cavendish as well. And so, they're all clones.
Yeah, they're all the same. It's all the same.
Okay. Even though we didn't get to know you first, we just asked you about bananas. But if you were to introduce yourself, Kano, how would you introduce yourself to someone? Give us a spiel. Who do we have on with us today?
That's a hard question. I feel like it's what you would tell your mother-in-law that your job is. So if I was to introduce myself, I'd say, hi, I'm Chris. I'm a software engineer at Twilio. I'm in the solution engineering team, which is a lot of fun, but we're very versatile. So we do everything from software engineering to sometimes presenting, which is probably the day job. But otherwise, I would probably just say, hey, it's me. I've lived lots of places and start a conversation wherever they're at, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think it's important, for folks to get to know you beyond your like of bananas. Even though
Bananas are important, Bianca.
I guess. Anywho, okay, so a solutions engineer, what does that even mean, right? Like, what is that here, especially like at Twilio, or does it show up in other places? Yeah.
Look, I think it's one of the best jobs in the world, and the reason for that is it's sort of the intersection of technology, marketing, sales. You get to talk to customers, you get to do cool stuff all the time. Every single day is different. It's not a run-of-the-mill job, is the way that I would put it. It does show up. It shows up in many places, particularly software companies. I was a solution engineer many years ago, and I've actually come back to it. So I've sort of returned home to be an SE again because I like it that much. It's lots of different places will have an SE that do slightly different things. I think the SEs in Twilio is one of the toughest jobs that there is, because you kind of need to know Rust, and sometimes you need to know .NET and then TypeScript. So you're part programmer, but you're also then part business case champion of trying to articulate why a solution would fit a business need, and they would actually get a return on their investment. You'd help model out the TCO for the customer. So it's a very unique job of this sort of intersection between many different worlds. And I'm lucky enough to have spent time in each of those worlds and returned home to be an SE.
I love that. And I like how because I often feel that same way too. Like, I can do a lot of different things, and it's a very special skill set when you can talk the business use case, you can write some of the code, or at least get somebody started on writing the code. You can talk the marketing side. You can talk the customer experience side, like it's all there. And it sounds like you have to be part polyglot. I didn't know you were writing stuff in Rust for customers too. That's fun.
Customers write in all different languages.
Oh, I know. I didn't even think about that though, because yeah, that's true.
Rust was my COVID language. So during COVID, I was like, I'm going to try and pick up something new, and Rust was it. So we went through something called quarantine in Australia. on the way back in. So as you come into the country, we're very paranoid. So we put you in a hotel where you couldn't see anyone else for 2 weeks. And in that time, I was like, I'll do a Rust course. That sounds like a lovely thing to do. And I got through it, which is my love of Rust now. But yeah, our customers, when we talk to them, they are constantly moving after the next language, what skill sets in the market. And so that has led us down some really interesting rabbit holes with customers on making sure our APIs work in the ways that they expect. Yeah.
That's great. I'm glad that you learned it. My favorite random COVID story like that is one of my favorite authors wrote 4 books during quarantine in the US.
Wow.
And then published them. And I was like, you're crazy. Shout out for any Brandon Sanderson fans out there. Yeah,
I feel like there were this. Yeah. No, I feel like there were like so many different pathways. So whether it was like writing a book, sourdough starter, sourdough took the streets by storm.
Did you have a sourdough starter during COVID, Bianca?
No, I didn't. I couldn't bring myself to it. I just felt like there were so many hobbies and activities that just sprouted off, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the dedication. It's kind of, okay, I know I'm going off a little bit, but I'm very curious about this like SE land, right? Because we kidnapped an SE. We didn't kidnap her, but she willingly came over to our team. Shout out to Sarah. But I think like even this aspect of like thinking more holistically, like right around solutions and that's in the name. I think what role do you see this whole view around being more solutions focused rather than just like, hey, here's a quick fix? Like what, and just how do you see that evolving, whether that be for Twilio or just even the market?
Customers buy outcomes is the way that I like to think about it. Well, in fact, there's almost 2 speeds in some way, depending on the client that you're at. It's a little bit of a maturity model, a little bit of just their posture on how they're adopting technology. I think mass market wants a solution. A lot of people don't want to code. They don't want to think about it. And I'm sure you've seen the same. We're sort of seeing a rise of pseudo coders where they will be technical enough that they can ask some ex-GPT to help them along the way, but they're not sort of deep in the weeds of development. And that's true for a lot of customers that want to just buy something off the shelf that they know work with other things. And so moving to a solution world that is more a little bit more prescriptive, a little bit more opinionated view on different technologies that work really, really well together and it's sort of be battle hardened and road tested and solve a unique problem. And we are lucky enough at Twilio having over 300,000 customers. We get to see that every day. We see common problems. So it makes sense that we evolve into solutions that address those problems directly. The other speed, though, is we still have builders. We have lots of builders and lots of companies and people that just want one thing, or they want to build their own, or they've got their own opinions on how this should come together, and they want to use our ecosystem and APIs to build that. And so we will end up doing both is the reality of the situation. I think our roots and our DNA is that we're a platform at the end of the day, and we allow people to go and create wonderful things in the way that they want to. And for those that maybe just want to take something off the shelf, they can do that too with solutions. For a solution engineer, it's kind of in the name a little bit of we like to create solutions and have solutions to problems. So moving into a solution-focused world means that we get to play with other technologies as well. So in my previous roles at other companies in solution engineering, we had a really, really strong focus on solution selling. And that is maybe a little less technical in some ways and more on the outcomes that it's delivering our customer or their end customer. So the customer is always at the center of that equation and trying to understand, well, what are they trying to do? Are they empathetically, what is the end customer trying to achieve? How do you build something that is right for them, that makes their life better? Is kind of key to being successful in that space as well.
Yeah, I love that focus on, or just that thought about like, some people want it all in a box. Some people want like every little, like the Lego pieces. I use the Lego analogy a lot. Like, it's like, do you want to go buy, you can buy a DeLorean toy, or you can buy the Lego set that lets you build the DeLorean, or you can even go and just buy a bunch of Lego pieces and figure out how to build a DeLorean on your own. There's merits to all of those, but everybody wants something a little different. And honestly, one of the biggest challenges I think we have here at Twilio is like trying to like be okay with not always having everything, and like working with ISVs potentially. But yeah, I appreciate that viewpoint of just like, how do you make sure that you're solving for as many people's problems as possible?
I'm stealing that analogy, Alex. That's a lovely one. I like it.
Yeah. I'm using it in a new show I built, but we're using a Back to the Future reference instead. So you can have the Millennium Falcon one.
No, all working together. Okay, before we jump into just perusing into your personal life, question. I was like, we won't get too deep, but I guess because you've had to kind of again build out so many solutions, what do you feel like are some of the underrated things that people like ignore? Like what things do you feel like people ignore when building out solutions? Like if you were to pull people into the school of SEs, just kind of curious your thought.
I feel like I could take that from so many perspectives. The one I'm going to take first is, well, I've got a thought on, so we've got some underrated technology components that I think people just overlook. I'll come to that in a moment, I guess. My heart would say a lot of people forget about the end experience, especially when something's new and, it's sexy at the moment. LLMs are, been sexy for about 2 years now, a little bit further back if you were really finger on the pulse. But what is the problem that we're trying to solve is often missed. So it's like, I've got to embed this new piece of AI into my thing. Why is the question. And if you can answer that why, truly answer that why, and it is a hard question, you end up with a better product or a better solution at the end of the day, because you're thinking about the end user's experience. So maybe, for example, because we talk about voice AI this week, I guess, often I see voice AI thrown at problems that maybe aren't necessarily a voice AI problem. There are buttons and clicks and swipes that we can do without necessarily having the modality be voice. But voice is cool, and we want to strap it on. Doesn't mean it needs to be strapped into everything. So having that, the element of design thinking, I'll call it that, is often overlooked, of really getting uncomfortable with the problem. And what I mean getting uncomfortable, it's like challenging yourself on the problem space, and then challenging yourself in the solution space before you start. And we often do it the opposite way around.
we saw this really acutely. So we last year ran the Twilio AI Startup Searchlight, and then we talked to a bunch of the winners. Bianca and I are currently in the process of interviewing them for a Transform event coming next month. And one thing that we found is most of them mentioned that they use AI because it solved a problem, not because they just wanted to use AI. So most of these companies, if there was something that wasn't AI that solved the problem, they would use that. The key is that they had this one little piece that they couldn't quite get, or there was something else going on. So I really appreciate that framework of what problem are you actually solving, not just what tech are you using. I feel like AI, there's actually is usefulness to the tech, but I feel like one of the reasons and we don't have to go into crypto, but crypto as a technology, didn't take off in the same way as I remember someone describing it as they're replace anytime you want to use like crypto, replace it with really slow database and then see if it still makes sense as a business. And it's that same thing where it was like crypto is a little bit of like a solution looking for a problem, and AI, I think, solves a lot of problems in a really great way, but we got to make sure that we're always coming at it from the looking for a solution, not we have a solution, let's find the problem.
100%.
Yeah.
And,
I also
sorry, go ahead, Bianca.
keep going.
Well, I was going to riff on the other thought that came to mind when you asked me the question, which is the other very Twilio underrated service that I see overlooked is Sync. And I don't know if I'm sure the devs on here have played with it. If not, go and check it out. It is my Swiss Army knife of getting things done all the time in solution engineering, because it is a real-time database sometimes. It is the event emitter at scale. I don't have to think about state synchronization. I don't have to think about getting tokens and distributing them. It's so wonderful, and it can be used as sometimes as a document, sometimes as a stream, sometimes as a hash map. That is my underrated by far service that Twilio has that people just go, I don't even know what it is, but it's a very, very cool little product.
Yeah, this Sync, like, you can go check out more in the docs. I would love a crash course on Sync, because I keep being, like, this is something that I think would be really useful for me, but I haven't quite figured it out. I feel like there's a little bit of a like understanding gap that I have, because it's not the most straightforward. It's not just a database. It's a little bit more.
It is. And it solves, I mean, the off by one errors and state synchronization and caching is sort of the problems that we all have, right? As the memes go. This solves so many of them. It's not funny. And you can do some very, very powerful things. And if you look carefully, you'll see that a lot of the Twilio services, even the ones that are at a higher order, are sync in a different way. They're using those fundamentals to grow and build something else on top, which is really cool.
Sync is definitely an example of like us exposing an internal thing that we use. I feel like Conversations is similar to that. It's kind of like the back end for a lot of the messaging that we expose. But yeah, it's Sync is cool. Maybe we'll have to do a whole other stream on like underrated Twilio products, and we can just do a deep dive into Sync.
It just, I mean, it's a reminder to, like, because you're having to focus so much on just like what's the best solution, it's like you're gonna use different avenues to get there. And I think rather than just being like, there's only one way to get to this, to point B. And I do love that emphasis on just getting back to that, like, customer, thinking about the customer, thinking about the problem you're trying to solve. Because I do think sometimes companies can get very like, I want to impress the VCs. I want to show you, look at me, innovative company. Me? Yeah, I use all the tech. And I'm just like, just build a great product. Like, that will show that you are the most innovative person ever. But I think it became very like, are you using this to build your solution versus like, are you making money? Are you, are you solving your customers' problems? And I think once we get back to like, what questions should we actually be asking to see a good company, it'll get us back on track.
Totally agree.
Yeah. We have actually a very important question. I'm so sorry for this overstatement or oversight on my part. Roberto was reminding me. We have the most important question that we ask anybody on the DevNet, which is, do you prefer cake or pie?
Me?
Yeah,
I will be cake any day. And I'm going to be really boring. My wife will laugh. I love just a pound cake.
Oh, wow.
I don't want anything on top. No cream in the middle. Just a pound cake or a butter cake is my favorite by far. So it's really boring, but I could eat it for weeks.
Got it.
We're aligned. We're all aligned here.
I'm a cake fan. This is a primary cake stream. We actually have a lot of pie people elsewhere in the DevNet though, so I think we might be in the minority. Brent is pie. Andrew's asking is a cheesecake pie.
Wow.
Oh,
I don't know. It depends. This is such a. I've heard both, but it has the word cake in it. To me, that means cake. Might just be me.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Yep.
We've determined that outside. Whoopsies. We've determined that outside the U.S., no one has good pastry crust. I mean, there's an entire baking show in Britain that I think would.
Whoa.
Yeah.
You know, but I don't know.
I think every French culinary school has just got their hackles up at the moment going, oh, what do you mean?
Are you saying they hate Brent? They hate pie. All they do is make pies. Everything's a pie there. It's like there's like savory pies. There's sweet pie. Whatever. Okay.
You're just mad that pie was not selected. It's cake. It's just a cake space here. Okay, cake space.
It's cake space. Yeah. So I want to like you. You're from Australia. I can tell by your accent. But you lived in the U.S. for a little while, right?
I did.
Yeah.
Probably about 7, almost 8 years. I moved in 2014 to New York with my other half. It was great. We left as 2 independent people, and the first time we ever lived together was when we actually got to New York, which was a lot of fun. So we left our own houses and moved in. So we lived there for a couple of years, and then we moved to Miami, and I had a son in Miami who's a little Floridian that's about to go to school. We might hear him later. And then we ended up in North Carolina for the last part, and that was great. And there's so many stories over those years. Run away from hurricanes, driving cross country multiple times. I think we zipped from LA to North Carolina in the RVs, the Cruise America RVs. We took one of those cross country and then back again, which was so much fun. And then we did a lot of that during COVID too, actually. So we saw everything when the parks were closed, if that makes sense. But yeah.
The parks were closed. Could you still get into them, or you weren't even allowed in at that point?
It depends. So it depends on the state that you're in. So Missouri was very interesting. They were pretty open.
Okay.
When we got to California, state parks were closed, federal parks were open. So we camped out at a place called Earp, which is sort of like the borderlands between California and Nevada, I think. And it's sort of a little bit of federal land that was not closed. So we camped out there in our RV for a couple of weeks, visiting friends, because it was sort of like this ungoverned territory. It was really cool. But yeah, that was in the middle of COVID. So we got to see every shade of COVID, from masked up people to what's COVID, it's not even happening. It was very interesting.
Yeah. We had I had to postpone my wedding for COVID and yeah, it was rough. But we were in the time living in Arizona, and I remember we decided we wanted to just get married, courthouse married, just in case. And I called up the courthouse and I was like, so what do we need to do? Blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, but I'm guessing not a lot of people are showing up. And they're like, no, don't come if you don't have to. It's packed. We're the only state around that's doing marriage license. So people were driving into Arizona to get married because it was the only state that their courts were open to do them. So we found someone who was already an officiant that met us in a park and signed our agreement. But it was, it's wild that, how different it was from place to place there.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah. So, cool. And then you went from there and you moved back to Australia, and you've been there for a few years now, right?
I think we're back about 3 years. So when we came back, so I was working for a different company whilst I was in the US, a company called Genesis, and which is a contact center software product. And I was in a completely different role. I was in marketing for them for quite some time. And then came back to Australia, moved in with my parents and with my son and my wife, which was really interesting after so many years of living away and then moving in with a family to your familiar home. It's really an interesting experience. But we moved where they live is sort of the periphery of Sydney, and they had 5 megabit ADSL at the time with 2 people that were trying to do work via video. It was bad. It was a really bad internet situation, lovely home situation, but that was a bit of a driving force for us to move to the north of Sydney, which is where we are now, right on the edge. So we've got bushland. When I lived in the US, I had people all the time ask me, do I have kangaroos in the backyard? And it's like, you get that question all the time. I can actually now say I have a wallaby in the backyard, which is like a mini kangaroo, which comes to visit, once or twice a year, and it's bliss. So we love it here. We're a remote first organization now, so this is like day to day. It's lots of fun.
Yeah, that's great. I'm so glad you guys have wallabies in your backyard. They're very cute. They just opened an exhibit at the zoo here that you can walk around and like pet little wallabies, and it's super cute. That's great. I love that you guys have wallabies running.
We have if you're really like going to go down a rabbit hole, they're called swamp wallabies, and
swamp wallabies.
The eastern swamp wallaby, and they are really dark. They're like their fur is like black, and they've got like this sort of golden tail at times. So the swamp wallaby is maybe you're not super unique, but it's certainly in the eastern coast of Australia is where you'll find lots of them.
We've got raccoons. These are great.
Yeah, the first wallaby seems so much nicer, and then the swamp wallaby is like, I don't know, it's just different vibes.
I like that color though. That's beautiful.
Yeah, that is a nice. Wow. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a wildlife spotlight, golden swamp. Okay.
The golden swamp wallaby.
Look at us. We're
yeah.
There's wallaby soda or something. Anyways,
Probably.
How is your son adapted to living in a different country?
It's phenomenally interesting to watch. So he was born in Miami, and so he went to a little bit of like preschool in the US, and then when he came back, well, he didn't come back. This is what I keep saying. Like when he came back, when we came back, for him, he was like immigrating.
Right.
He had rightfully so an American accent, and 3 years later, and he still has elements of it. It's super interesting to hear because he still hasn't really adopted an Australian one completely yet. But now he's at school here, and he's starting to develop a new one. It is very interesting to hear some of his references. So he'll still call things candy. We say lollies in Australia. So those little idiosyncrasies are still there for him. He obviously watches, a variety of different programs and, screens for various things. But he's got a bit of a perspective. He loves traveling as well. We travel a lot, both with work and pleasure as well. So he remembers parts. I can see as time goes on, there's little bits that are fading, like living in snow. That is such a unique experience. I didn't even see snow until I lived in the US. So
you guys have snow in Australia? In the south,
we do, kinda, but you've got to. It's called the Snowy Mountains because that's where you find snow, and but not day to day. Like we don't live in snow. We don't have snow blowers. We don't have gear really. You might get a dusting in the middle of winter if you're down in a really cold part of Australia south, but it's not generally what we see. So yeah, that sort of range of experiences of you got to get up and shovel the driveway. Mind you, we lived in Raleigh, North Carolina, so anytime there's
dealing with that a lot either.
Yeah, exactly. And it would be a snow day, and school would stop, and the world would shut down for a couple of days.
Yeah.
But yeah, the rest of the places are super interesting.
Yeah, I have. There's a little bit of snow on the ground. It's actually very cold right here right now. So hope you're enjoying your summer. summertime in Australia.
Yes.
And then, right, you told me before that you're actually building something super cool.
I am. So this is this week's project, well, maybe this month's project. So we're building a gas-powered go-kart. So a 6.5 horsepower, I think it's like 190 something cc little go-kart that fits adults because I'm a big kid. So I want to get on this thing as well and rip around the farm. So that is arriving hopefully by Friday. It's Wednesday morning for me. So by the weekend, I'm hoping that will be the weekend task, is to go and build a go-kart, which I've never done. I'm not a petrol head or a gas head. Do you call them that at all? So
I think it'd be like, I don't know what you'd call it here, but I feel like diesel head maybe, or like, yeah.
We sound
a motorhead. Roberto says
motorhead. Yeah. So I'm not a motorhead. So this is going to be new for me. Like, okay, it's just like code, but in physical form, I guess. We'll figure that out together.
If there's instructions, you'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what's so wild? Okay, this is great because we kind of had this conversation earlier today, and I'm just like, even what you just mentioned, like it's just code but in physical form, and it's like, a developer, it shows up in your life, right? Just generally speaking. So it's kind of interesting that you would just say like, yeah, this is just another form of building, and it's just like, yes, you do this in your day-to-day job, but like you build regardless, right? And I don't know, it just reminded me of just kind of that like reminder of just like being a developer isn't just like, pushing code, but being a developer just shows up just as a lifestyle, right? And building as a lifestyle. So that just kind of sparked, we were talking about this. I was thinking about this earlier.
I think it's so true. I feel the same about cooking, by the way. I love cooking, and I think it's sort of assembling. It's a different type of formula, but it's sort of that similar. Okay, how do I combine these things in such a way that brings out the best, and I can tweak it and I can make it my own, but it's sort of the raw ingredients to build something great.
I guess, okay, even if I were to dial into that question, I guess like what is being to dial in. What does being a developer mean to you? I'm kind of curious how you would answer that question.
Maybe to put it succinctly, I would say being a developer is someone that likes to solve problems, that really likes to tackle it. There was, to use maybe not an analogy, but a conversation that I had with someone else a long time ago is, do you like to take things apart or put things together? And I think for a lot of developers, our journey has been, when we were younger, we took things apart. We were the kid that opened everything up, took everything out of the cupboards, wanted to understand how a flashlight worked. And as you get older, as a developer mindset, you realize that taking things apart is easy. Putting things together is hard. And that part of the challenge becomes really interesting. And I'm not talking about like reverse engineering. That's certainly hard and fun as well, but it's still a different skill set. So I watch a lot of security folks on the internet because I'm just fascinated by it. And it's, in the cyber world, there's lots of people that will do reverse engineering that can't code, which is really interesting, but they really get it. They can pull things apart amazingly well. I think being a developer is sometimes the inverse of that, where you're taking disparate things and seeing how you can assemble them. And the developer mindset isn't necessarily, as Bianca was saying, not rigid on it's got to be software, right? It's anything. I mean, we borrow the word developer sometimes from the physical world of like civil engineers. They're developers as well. They're a different type of developer. They're putting things together, and they're taking hyper technical or really, geeked out things on how the water levels in concrete, change the structure and the strength, and then they use that to build skyscrapers. being a developer, to me at least, is really going deep with problems to come out with amazing things at the other end.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, as someone who's taken some civil engineering classes, there's a lot going on there. It's challenging, and it actually reminds me of something. I have a background in robotics, and the last place I worked was a robotics software firm, and they actually had more success hiring people with a robotics background that they could teach to code than people, or not robotics, sorry, with a mechanical or electrical background that they could teach to code versus developers straight up, because it was a world where that mindset of like taking things apart all the time and understanding how things work in the physical world is really hard.
Yeah.
So I'm excited that you're building a go-kart with your kid. That's going to be so much fun and like such a physical experience. And you do a lot of other like 3D stuff. Like you told me that you're really into 3D modeling and resin printing. Was that what we got in the background there?
So I've got a couple of a resin printer, Anycubic Mono 3D. So it's been around for a couple of years, and this one is the workhorse. This is the Ender 3. So the 3D printers out there will be like, oh, that's a very entry level printer, and it is, and I love it because it does so many things. I went the other way to most. I think I started with resin and then went to FDM printing, and I really like resin more. Like the quality, the output is beautiful, but it is messy. It is messy work. And what I find is I do most of my work on the Ender 3. And that's where most of my prototyping gets done. And then when it gets to a level that I'm happy with, it comes across to the resin printer. But yeah, look, I'm also one of those people who's like to build practical things. I don't build 3D like figurines, which a lot of printers do. I'm building, I built a drain pipe connector because I had a very weird little connection, and so I was like, I can model this out. It'll cost me $15 to buy a part that won't work. I can do that for $30 with resin. So
that's right.
Yeah, but do I have? I think I've got somewhere here. Yeah. Okay.
We're just gonna add a stream. Build with Kano. This is gonna be.
This is my favorite, and I've built this years ago now, but this is a light fitting adapter because I bought these lights for my house, that like ceiling lights that didn't fit, and I was like, you know what? I'm sure I could sit and model something out. So this is, hopefully you can see that, the base, and it was a lot of fun. This is resin printed, so it's like you get really like millimeter margins on there. It sands really well, and then I spray painted it, and now there's like 5 of them in my house in other rooms that you would never know. You would just think it's part of the light fitting, but hey, 3D printers for the win, right?
There you go. Yeah, I like revertibles. 3D printing, you save dozens of dollars by spending hundreds. But it's the fun of it though, and sometimes it's the fun of it. It's the reward.
You know your audience, because it's like, well, it's not the money, it's like the build. It's just the thrill of the build. No, I know that needs to.
I actually feel like that mindset though is all over. I've worked in startups, and I made the mistake the first few times of like fully doing everything myself and bootstrapping. And it's one of those things where like you try to like not spend $100 a month on a piece of software, so like $1,200 a year, let's say, and instead you have somebody spending hours and hours and hours trying to build it themselves, because that's like what you do. But it's knowing when to buy the thing, when to build it yourself. It just goes back to that same combo. But I appreciate that you're figuring it out on your own. Yes,
this is so true in my life. So pardon the tangent, but I broke my mirror on my car. The driver's side mirror, which is on the right.
It's on the left, but that's fine.
Well, so I broke it. I was like, I'm going to replace it. So I took it apart and thought, I'm going to save hundreds of dollars here.
Those are expensive.
And it ended up being like a little gear that was broken. So I was like, I'll order the gear. So it arrived. It was an AliExpress order. So 4 weeks later, it arrives in my house. I take
Of
the mirror
course.
off the car again, disassemble it. It's probably like a 2-hour mission every time I do this. And I replaced it and it did not work. And I was like, oh, great. So I reassembled it and I thought, I parked it, pardon the pun, for a couple of months. And I thought, I'll take it off and I'll have one more go. And as I took it off, I smashed the mirror this time. I was like, great. So now I'm like, okay, do I go and just buy a mirror replacement when I've still got a broken part inside? And finally I bit the bullet and went on eBay and just found another mirror. And so like, I spent hundreds of dollars on and months of time on something I should have just bought the mirror.
You know what? But it's the experience.
It was.
But also, like, I do think sometimes we underestimate how deep how far away we are from a solution. So I do think sometimes, like, yeah, we underestimate, like, oh, it's just the mirror or it's just the gear versus like, no. There are so many other pieces within this. So I do think that aspect of just like, you can start to underestimate how deep, the problem is. So that, that can be a thing.
Massively.
What did you, even though revertibles might be trolling, but what did you learn along the way? Along that journey?
I did learn a ridiculous amount about different mirror models. I have a Hyundai Tucson, and there are an amazing amount of different variations that you need to get right. I did learn quite a few things on how the mirror worked. It's got a beautiful heater behind the mirror, which I didn't expect. I learned everything was 12 volt, which I was like, I wonder, because it's a mirror that folds in, and so the little electric
motor
was broken, and I was like, well, how am I going to test that? So I pulled out some parts, went, okay, yeah, it's 12 volt. So I did learn a lot along the way on the detail that goes into a mirror. And I guess if you're an auto mechanic or in sort of that design space, it's a rather complex little item. I mean, you don't even think about it day to day, like your side mirror, but it's got a blinker. It also has a light underneath that illuminates the ground when a key goes close. It's got the movable mirror itself because that's adjustable. It's got another end. So there was actually quite from an engineering point of view, it was fascinating with the amount of engineering that went into it. But what did I learn? I learned that I should just go to an auto wrecker and get parts. That's what I learned.
I actually had a similar experience. We got into like a little thing, and one of our doors on a car got dented, and I had a friend who's like, his family business was like fixing stuff up, but they were like a fiberglass shop. And we go in, and the one guy there is like, you should call an auto wrecker and see if they can get you a new door, and you can just paint it. And I was like, okay, that's a great idea. And then the guy who runs the shop was like, no, we're gonna fix it with fiberglass. Wrong decision. We should have just gotten a new door, because he just like spent so much time and money trying to make this look good with fiberglass. But like, yeah, you go to auto wreckers, they've got all the parts for you. So if you guys break something on your car, go to a wreck shop. They'll probably have it, unless you have a very new car.
Yes.
I had that issue.
Yeah.
But I want to kind of change topics a little bit. You have kind of gone all over. You've worked in data entry, software engineering, product strategy, product marketing, like all these things. Can you just give us like a really brief rundown of your kind of like what got you to where you are today, and like the different things you kind of learned along the way a little bit?
Well, there are so many things that get you to where you are in life. That is a big question. A lot of it is just luck and happenstance. I think curiosity is the thing that has got me to where I am. I am just a curious mind on how things work all the time. I think might have been relaying to you at one point, Alex, that in my first job, I automated my way out of that job. So I was a young, brash 17-year-old that was putting himself through college, and I took a data entry job at a bank. And it was at the time, I'm going to date myself here, so that was like 1999. It was at the time where we had like an AS400 mainframe, and Windows NT on two different screens. And
Mm-hmm.
my job was to take this AS400 screen and type it into an Access database. And then that would ultimately dispatch a POS machine, so for electronic sales. That was it. That was the job. And I thought, this is cool. But after about a week, I was like, this is really boring. And I realized that the help manual in, I think it was like Microsoft PCOM, no, Microsoft, IBM PCOM, I think it was the software for this mainframe emulator or terminal emulator. The help file had all these C code samples. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I'll learn C. And the other side was this Microsoft Access database, which is obviously Visual Basic for applications, VBA. And so I ended up porting or figuring out how to write enough code in Access to talk to this PCOM terminal. And then I wrote a screen scraper. And so I got my job down to a single button. And so you press the button and it would read the AS400 terminal emulator, and it would put all the fields in the Access database. And then, I guess it was two buttons, like there was read and there was send, and that would dispatch it. So it got that process down really, really quickly. And that sort of set me on a path. So my team leader at the time, Dara Turner, who was one of my best managers ever, Dara could see that, I was technical. And so she put me down this track of going to university during remote. So it's
Nice.
Which was really cool, and moving into systems. And so I moved into systems, and that's kind of where I actually met an IVR system for the first time. And I was fascinated by that. So those of you that have ever read Frack magazine from many years ago, which is sort of the intersection of hacking and freaking, that was just a curious topic for me as a kid. And then I got to see this IVR system, which was on OS2 Warp. And I was like, wow, that's super interesting. And I have never really left that intersection of computers and telephony since, because it's just been fascinating for me. So after that, I joined an integrator, a systems integrator called Dimension Data, now NTT. Mm-hmm. And that was just integrating complicated stuff from different vendors. I would recommend anyone starting out, go and join an integrator. It is one of the best experiences you can have. And I think you should do that before you join a software company, because it teaches you.
You're learning the end point. You're learning how it's actually being used, not just writing the code.
Yes.
That
and you're seeing like two different software companies that don't even know about each other, and your job is to like mash them together.
Yeah. The first time I started building something where there was like a whole middleware layer, I was like, oh man, this is complicated. Like this is challenging. And you try to make everything synchronous, but some stuff's async and so I feel that, and it makes a lot of sense. You have more empathy for the end user if you're actually trying to build a solution with all the pieces of software and not just using that software or writing that code for that software.
Absolutely. So I guess to put a very, very quick button on that story, that took me down a path of like CTI, so to speak, and engineering. And then I moved into a software role with, or a solution engineering, pure software role for a time, with a colleague who is now actually at Twilio as well, which is, he used to be my manager at the time, and he is now at Twilio, and it's lovely to work with him again. But then I joined marketing. So I went from sort of product to product marketing, and then back again. And so sort of closing loop back into solution engineering, I think spending time in marketing is also very worthwhile. I think I had the opinion, as many engineers do, it's like, oh, those marketers, they're idiots. But there is so many technical aspects to product marketing. It is a lot of fun, and it's a different part of creativity, and it's a different part of your brain to understand how to then take something that is, rather technical, distill it down, talk about it in a very succinct way. And there is, I've got to say this, marketers are often in the bleeding edge of technology as well, from a completely different perspective. They are willing to try things and fail and try again in ways that you don't see in service industries, you don't see in different parts of the organization, certainly don't see in finance. So yeah.
There's a lot of good stuff there. I think marketing, it's the cost of failure is less. Like you're not, I don't know, it is still high because you're not, but like, yeah, I think there's definitely a risk thing there, but I totally agree with you. Product marketing is hard. I've done it at super technical places accidentally, like the robot shop. I was doing product marketing because nobody else could talk the stuff. And even here at Twilio, I work with a lot of our product marketers, and it's communicating really complex topics to so many different people is such a challenge.
Yes.
So I definitely feel for them. We had a question in chat. Did you get 2600 magazine?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of that online. So we didn't have like a Barnes and Noble equivalent. So you couldn't get it unless you mail ordered it, or you went, I'm trying to think where we used to go.
I love the websites for these because they're like I looked up the other one you posted, but like this is the website for 2600 magazine.
Yep.
And it's still being, it looks like it's like, it looks like one was published in the last week, or something was published last week. I don't know what this is, but like this website is just beautiful. Beautiful.
Captain Crunch and Cult of the Dead Cow.
Yeah.
For those that are out there.
There you go. I think you and Robertables are going to be best friends now.
Oh yeah, I think so too. I think we have a new friend for you.
It's too much. Cool. So I want to talk about some of your builds. We got a Conversation Relay demo coming up soon, but you shared a different build with us that I actually got really excited about, and that's your you helped a friend who had a cycle studio in Sydney deck out their site. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So the really good friend of mine, Stephen, we actually grew up together. He one of his COVID sort of tangents is he decided he's going to start a cycle studio. So Infinite Cycle in Sydney. It's no longer there, by the way, but
okay.
This was there for a while. The whole brand, he was a franchisee, and the whole brand collapsed, unfortunately. But he had this cycle studio. I think you've got a photo up.
Yeah.
At the moment, and that's Stephen, by the way. So he had this cycle studio. It had lights around the edge, and he came for a visit. He's like, I really want to be able to sync the lights with the routine that he's doing. So he was also the instructor, him and his wife. And I was like, okay, that sounds like a challenge. And we looked at it, and the lighting is called, it uses a protocol DMX, which has been around forever. It's like a serial protocol that is like a multi-drop bus protocol. And we looked at the devices that you could get, and they were really expensive, like thousands of dollars. And I'm like, that makes no sense. I'm pretty sure on Hackaday I've seen something along these lines. And maybe to Bianca's point, that developer mindset of like, I can build something here. And so this was also sort of, again, coming off the back of a bit of a boring time of COVID where you do lots of research and now you want to put it in practice. And I found these ESP32s. So it's a microcontroller, really, really simple, but they've got Wi-Fi. They've got some good pin in, pin outs. So I found this library that was in C from this guy that had built just sort of a C layer that spoke DMX, and it uses these chips. I can't even remember the chip name. It's a Max 32 something, which is essentially the protocol converter. You can see them there on the right, actually. Yeah. Those two little chips on the right are just protocol converters, effectively. And so all they do is they pump serial messages in, and you pump serial messages out. The protocol is really, really simple. Like every light channel is just a a byte in an array. That is it at the end of the day. So I was like, yeah, let's see if we can hack on this. And the other side of it is there's another protocol called ArtNet, and ArtNet is essentially DMX over IP. And so we built this thing called like an ArtNet to DMX controller. So
that you called Conotron.
I called Conotron. The challenge was the lights, the little on the panel on the wall spoke DMX, and these light strips spoke DMX. But Stephen only wanted to be able to control the lights from the iPad during the studio session. He didn't want to do it all the time. So the purpose of this thing is essentially like a proxy. So in normal operation, it will just pass messages back and forth. But if you join with an iPad or if there's an ArtNet connection, it will cut off the controller, and then you can stream messages, light messages in. And then when you stop or you disconnect, it passes the messages back. So it was sort of this little interceptor, and it ended up being like, I don't know, if you did the BOM cost, it would be $30. It was really, really cheap. But not sponsored, JLB PCB, everyone see those ads. I jumped on and got it printed. I got 5 of those boards. I actually still have a few boards hanging around the house. But the other, they also plug into solar charge controller, so it uses the same protocol under the hood. It's not DMX, but it's the same serial protocol. So you can use them for whatever you want. But again, this is sort of the intersection of, well, I haven't done a circuit board design before. Let's see if I can do that. I haven't really done any electronics printing. That was part of it. There's obviously the coding aspect. And then, of course, I had to build a 3D case for it. Because
which you have in here. By the way, this is a beautiful GitHub repo. I posted it in chat for everybody if they want to check it out. You really laid out everything that you did. You made it super clear. Sometimes you get repos and you're like, I don't really know what's going on, but you really show every step of the way, including all the wiring.
I was documenting it for whoever wants to come along next and take it. I took ideas from there was 2 or 3 other repos that are in the comments notes, by the way, of the source code. But there was 2 or 3 other projects that I really, really liked. And I picked up their work and took it forward, and maybe someone will take this up. I don't know.
I like that approach though, because I do think sometimes it's like, here, look what I did, and it's like you're documenting not for the sake of someone else taking it over, but you're just documenting for documentation's sake. So I like this aspect of just no, is this documented well enough that someone else can build upon this the same way that you were able to build upon the previous version, right, that someone else had kind of built out. So I kind of like that. Roberto's had a question in chat. Can you pull that up?
Oh, you want me to pull the DMX question up?
Oh yeah.
When you request over DMX, does it send a X gonna give it to you response when it's asynchronous?
Very important. We asked the hard hitting questions.
These are the questions that people want to know.
I think that's playing in my head now. I can hear the bass.
These are very. We ask hard hitting questions from cake or pie to is X going to give it to you?
Which, if anyone's curious. The DMX protocol stands for Digital Multiplex Protocol, not the wrapper.
Not the
says
wrapper.
That very clearly on the DMX Explain page.
Very important. Very important.
I'm waiting for the day that there is and maybe it happens already, chat, let me know, that there is a programming language or protocol or repo that's named after a rapper or musician. I just think that would be, I want people to start writing code in Kendrick. I don't know.
I feel like I could see that in the future. I think everyone, I watch. One day we're going to look back at this. It's wow, did they predict Kendrick?
It's Kendrick Lambda.
Kendrick Lambda.
Oh. See what you did there.
There you go.
There. No,
this is good.
Nice. So Chris, I'm going to open this up. Would you want to take over the screen share? And so you made a demo not long ago that incorporated Conversation Relay, which we all learned about last week. If you don't remember, check it out. I'll give a brief overview of that in a second, but it took Conversation Relay and streamed it through voice, and then used Airtable kind of as a backend. So I'm going to have you pull that out. So if anyone missed it, Conversation Relay is a new product that we released at Twilio that basically takes a voice conversation, relays it to text so that it's really easy to use an LLM or really any text-based responder to respond to it, and then streams it back into voice. So it kind of does the text, the speech to text, and then text to speech, kind of all in a nice low latency package. And so it's, that's what Conversation Relay is. And I know, Kano, you did some stuff there. Before you get to that, Brent shared this, which now I just got to bring up here because I got to see what this is. This whatever it is that Brent just shared. It's the Rockstar language specifications. Got it. It's all .rock files.
Yeah.
Yeah,
close enough.
I don't know what this does, but this looks beautiful.
Yeah, close enough.
It's all Rockstar based presentations, but okay. Rockstar is a dynamic typed computer programming language designed for creating programs that are also song lyrics. Rockstar is heavily influenced by the lyrical conventions of the 1980s, hard rock and power ballads. So if you want to be able to sing your code, then you can use Rockstar. So that does exist. I'm glad. Cool.
Very important. I'm telling you, we are learning the hard hitting things here on
and
stream.
Just a quick shout out. RJ says Conversation Relay is nice, is really nice and easy to set up. So thank you for that, RJ. Yeah. So are you ready for me to bring your screen up?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Bring it on.
Cool.
I guess starting with Conversation Relay.
Can we make that screen a little bit bigger?
I can make it even bigger. How's this?
Perfect. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you've already covered Conversation Relay. I'm not going to maybe dig into it too deep.
Yeah.
For those that maybe haven't seen it, essentially it is a way to connect to your LLM. So it's a BYO LLM, BYO knowledge, BYO tooling that Twilio provides as it's a noun in our TWIML markup language. So you use the connect verb plus the Conversation Relay noun, and essentially establishes a WebSocket to your application, and then all of that downstream is on you. So I think the project that I'm going to take you through today is essentially the server side of that. So it is what Twilio customers or ISVs or partners or just those that are curious would build, and away you go. The project, hopefully I'll make this a little bigger as well. The project is all open on GitHub. What I'll take you through today is this multi-LLM flavor, but shameless plug here, this is a fork of my colleague Des Hartman's repo, and I know that Des updated his repo like yesterday or 4 days ago. Okay, and I know he's got something coming. This is actually where I would start. So this is a really simple Conversation Relay repo. This is in JavaScript. I've taken that and ported that to TypeScript because I like types. But this is maybe where I would start if you're curious, because what Des has put in here is some really great explanations of how things work. And he's been nice enough to update this to use our library, which is using the voice responses, where the version that I'll show you still just does raw TWIML because we didn't have that library built at the time. But the project structure is identical between the two. The difference between the projects is this one's in TypeScript. It also introduces some additional LLMs like DeepSeek and hardware accelerated LLMs like Grok. Which hopefully I get to show you live. We'll do that in a minute. But the project itself, let's maybe jump across to it here. So this is this multi LLM tool. I guess the entry point it is essentially an Express app, and let's jump across the circle, which is this guy here. It introduces a couple of things. It also introduces this assistant service, and the assistant service is basically just a big proxy to Airtable. So take you across to Airtable.
I love using Airtable for prototyping because it's just like the easiest database to set up with a quick API call.
It's the best. I love it. I use it for basically all of my database backend stuff because you can do things like this. So I've just created a table, CRelay assistance, and put everything in as rows. But the card view is a little bit easier to understand. So the one, and we can look at any of these. Let's look at Johnny Cab. I'm sure some people might get that reference. But essentially, I've just defined some fields here. Hey, it's Johnny Cab. This is the initial message. This is my prompt. This is essentially my big prompt, which I think most people get these days. Is like, yep, cool, prompts, get it, cool, move on.
Yeah.
But what I really like here is the ability to then expose what LLM provided. You want, DeepSeek, Grok.
Oh.
These are just strings. What TTS voice? This is one I've been playing with yesterday, which is from 11 Labs, and Charlie happens to have an Australian accent, which is why I've chosen Charlie.
There you go.
And a pretty good Australian accent. I've got to say, there's a lot of TTS voices out there, including the new Google Journey voices that are like an Australian that's gone to live in the US for about 15 years and forgets that they've got an Australian accent. So it's sort of this mix. But the 11 Labs voices are actually really sharp.
Yeah, they do a good job with voices. I've played with some of those before.
Yeah. And then lastly, what speech to text provider? So again, you want DeepGram, you want Google. So TTS, obviously text to speech, and STT in this case, speech to text. Otherwise known as an ASR. And then the model, you can just pass through any model. That's it. That is it at the end of the day. What this will do is I'll just
a lot of code.
It's going to say connection refused because I am not running.
You have to run an ngrok.
To run it.
Or run it. Yeah, there you go.
I also, getting ahead of myself here, ngrok. Let's set up an ngrok
love
tunnel.
Knowing it's a real demo by it not working. if it's just like, you're just like, I'm going to type this in, everyone would be like, I call shenanigans. So
this is recorded. This is all live.
I'll do this down the bottom because I did have Postman up, but sometimes the browser's quicker. So this is it. This is just the output of that. If we look at our
network. So that's pulling everything out of Airtable.
That's it.
Got it.
That's all it's doing. It's just wrapping a little API around Airtable to return an array of assistants, and that is the assistant service at the end of the day when we look at this. And so the definition, let's go to the definition of this guy. You'll see that here. So it's essentially just taking the Airtable base and the field set. We configure it. Airtable is so nice to use. It's like point it to the base, give it a key, and then essentially you wrap this, and away you go. So I'm just pulling out those fields. Nothing super crazy there. Essentially creating what is the equivalent of like a DTO object in .NET, or if you're feeling with that pattern. So once we have these assistants, so we define as many of those as we want. This is important for our TWIML. So I need to understand where we're running. In this case, I'm running locally, but you can see that I often use like Fly as a hosting provider because they do some nice WebSockets. And it's like super, again, sorry, I saw someone say Tangent Factory. Here's another tangent. Fly.io, really like them because they spin up their node service in like milliseconds, and it's all Rust based. And so you can have a service that is on standby, and the first time it gets hit, it will spin that up and serve the request within like 500 milliseconds. Then after that, it's really, really quick.
Got it.
But it's awesome. It's just an awesome, cheap service out there.
That's nice. I feel like that was the issue with Heroku, is if your stuff went to sleep, it would take like not that long, but like long in like normal web terms for it to kick back in.
100, long enough that you get a timeout. Where this you don't. This is
nice.
Really, really cool. So we spin up a server. We spin up just basically I'm creating a Twilio client here as well, but we spin up a Express app. I've got some endpoints here that if you just want to get a definition, you can. And this is sort of debugging more than anything else. It's just like, hey, do I have an assistant? Can I do some things? It's the assistant does have a caching layer, so you might see me save. And the reason I save is because I've got a watch on this project, and that will get it to restart, and that will get it to download the assistant again. But the reason that I'm caching those is we want to reduce latency, and the whole aim of the game with Conversation Relay is latency reduction. That is it. That if the one thing you would take away from building a voice AI compared to building an AI on the web or embedding it is we really, really care about latency more than anything else. Early days
we want sub 1 second, or else it starts to get annoying for people.
I was like, you taking notes, class. I'm telling you, the Conversation Relay exam at the end of the month. I don't know what you win, but yeah.
There's a saying that in voice compared to web, every moment is times 10. And what I mean by that is something that you can get away with on the web with a loading screen or a spinner. You just can't get away with that when it's the modality is via a telephone or via sound. The pauses are just so much. That silence is deafening for us.
One of the like early Twilio days, I did a demo where we had like a robot speaking, and it was one of the first versions of what is now AI assistants that was running it, and we had to put in what we called interstitial messages. We had to have the robot be like, let me think about that, because otherwise people just are like, this thing's just silent and staring at me, and it was so we had to figure that out.
It's a massive, massive issue, and has been for a very, very, very long time. So early days of speech before we got to where we are now, with nuance and speech tech, the old school ASRs of early 2000s. We did all types of hacky things to do that. So the problem in those days was that database lookups were long.
Yeah.
So pulling account details, that problem solved. Like that's now something instant. But what we used to do is we'd say, hey, I've got your account number. And at the same time, you've got this like asynchronous request that you've sent off, and then you're polling for a response. That's gone away, but we've got a new problem. And that new problem is that LLM token rate and time to first byte can be very, very long.
Yeah.
And so what we're going to, I'll show you this in a few moments actually, is the differences between maybe 3 different LLMs, and you can just like toggle between and see what it's like.
Oh, that's so cool.
And
you have background music.
I do. So this is, if you've played in this space, you know that sometimes you can get AIs that will play background music at the same time they're talking. Like that might sound like it's in a shop or it's at a pizza store.
I've heard that, and I've found that sometimes it's really jarring.
It is. And sometimes it throws the ASR off as well. So be careful with it.
Is this your background music?
That's what it should be. That's actually.
I was getting into the groove. Okay, whatever.
Or a DMX song of some sort is what we're going to put up next.
We just
I don't have that one queued on my sound pad.
We have all the but then not my like production mind being like, wait, would YouTube take off our video? Because they're like, you put music.
That's why I only did like 1 second.
Noted. We're like, we don't have funding to pay for we're not about to pay to put that on screen.
Yeah.
But anyways, okay, great. Oh, YouTube won't remove it. Okay, cool. Good to know. Thank you, Chef.
Don't worry, Chef Brent says YouTube won't remove it. Cool.
Twitch we might be silenced on the okay, noted. All right, back to you.
No, oh good. So I'm skipping over a couple of these functions here, which are like add participant. And the reason I'm skipping over these is it was exactly for that. It was setting up background music, which maybe isn't ready for prime time just yet. But where it's getting there is this is our web endpoint to start Twiml. So the first thing that happens, well, besides putting the source IP, the reason this is there, by the way, is I was debugging where Twilio sends its requests from, because I'm down here in Australia and a lot of the requests pop out from the US. So I was just like, where's my latency coming from? But we can also run this out of our Australian edge with a slightly different configuration. So that is just helpful of like, where am I serving the request from or getting the request from? So I know, hey, am I getting higher latency? Is there an extra 150 milliseconds because I'm going over the ocean? But essentially what we do, this is kind of the crux of the start, is we send this back. This is sort of the connect conversation relay. We read in our provider, we read in our language code, we read in the model that we are, and away we go. And then what this essentially does is it points to this WebSocket endpoint, which happens to be the same Express server. And so when we come down, then we hit this endpoint, which is our WebSocket endpoint. And this is really where the hard work starts. So again, some debugging here, like where did we get this connection from? Because they could theoretically come from two different services within Twilio, because we've got like all these microservices that do different things. One of them is ingesting Twiml, and we've got a different microservice that is then spinning up Conversation Relay. That all happens in sort of moments. But here, the way this is extracted away is we have an LLM service, and that is over here. So this LLM service, and if I jump across to this for a second, it's a provider pattern. So essentially, you say when you do the create LLM provider, you provided a string, what type, OpenAI, DeepSeek, Grok, and we just return an instantiation.
So in theory, if somebody wanted to add a new provider, they would just create a new, I guess, like child object definition.
Now, let me show you. Actually, it's a really good slight tangent. So this is the one I started with, which is those OpenAI one. But then adding DeepSeek, I was like, oh, do I have to spin up a new one? It is remarkably simple. So I've just literally cloned this OpenAI service, and the only changes I needed to make were here. So it's actually using the OpenAI SDK with the DeepSeek endpoint and the DeepSeek API key. Everything else remains the same because DeepSeek have followed that same pattern, and that's true for many of the AI models out there, LLM models out there. You can just override the endpoint.
Okay.
Grok is a little different. Grok does use the Grok SDK, and I find that a little cleaner. But anyway, so we spin up our LLM service. We also have a tool service. So when the LLM wants to invoke a tool, doing that asynchronously, so that the LLM can do what it needs to do: get customer information, send a text message, and so the tools are defined here. Now, one of you will probably get this. So when I get customer information, I'm just stubbing this out, returning the customer is Kevin Mitnick. Someone might get that reference from 2600 or similar. But these tools are essentially a way to equip your LLM to do things, as I'm sure you know. And so we've put in here some code verification. Send a code, send an SMS, and then, sorry, this is the send using our Twilio verify, and then verify the code was correct.
Mm-hmm.
And you can create your own tools as you need. Depending on the LLM will determine whether or not you can even use tools. So
yeah,
I find a lot of the Grok, the Mistral LLM behind it does not do tools very well, if at all. So your mileage may vary.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is a cool little innovation that Des put into his code, which is a silence handler. And the silence handler is essentially
that's important.
The problem, again, another different problem with the LLM is it's turn based. Like you send it a message and it waits, and then it gives you a response and it waits. And a conversation sometimes doesn't go that way with a human. You say something and then the LLM missed it. Well, now I need to, reprompt the LLM. So this silence handler is remarkably simple and actually works quite well, which just resets a timer and it waits. And it waits for someone to respond within 5 seconds or some configurable timeout. And if they do, reset the timer or watchdog, pat the dog. Otherwise, interject and send another LLM message to
this also reminds me, because like silence is one part, another part is interruption handling. Is interruption handling managed through is that like is that in CR, or you have to deal with that in here?
It's in CR. For the most part, it's in CR. So it's in Conversation Relay. So Conversation Relay will send you an interrupt message. In this code base, we just handle it as if it's a new prompt coming in. And I find that works remarkably well. I'm not having to go and digest and go, oh, it was an interrupt. What was my context? It actually, Conversation Relay's done that for you and will just send you the interrupt message, which is this big switch type, this big switch statement. So do we have, let's page down a little bit. I'm jumping ahead. Info, prompt.
There's so much here. We're not going to be able to cover all of it. So, but interrupts are hard. To do, handle interruption. Perfect code.
Yeah, but it works really well without it, and I don't feel like I'm going to need to do much.
Cool.
The rest of it, and in the interest of time, essentially what we're doing is everything's event based. So we're not passing around callbacks between functions. That's really important. But essentially, we're using the event emitter pattern, and then we either stream something out. The LLM is streaming something back to us, or the LLM is complete. So the reason this is important is we don't want to wait till we get a complete response from the LLM, because it introduces latency.
Yeah, you want to start streaming stuff. Oh,
stream
I see.
it.
Yeah.
Get it as soon as you can,
Mm-hmm.
and pass it back to Conversation Relay, because that allows Conversation Relay to also stream that to the downstream TTS providers. And then when the prompt is complete, or the response to the prompt is completion of the completion. Does that make sense? Now you can say, hey, it's completed, and that will just give a nice TTS response.
Mm-hmm.
What you might find, and it's a bit of a debugging, is if you're not completing your messages, you might get sound, but it sounds really off, or it finishes the sentence. It doesn't finish the sentence in the TTS. And so you're like, what's going wrong? And that's sort of a symptomatic of you're not sending a completion message to the TTS to say, hey, finish that prompt and read it out.
It's the classic, is that the classic, like Ron Burgundy, don't put a question mark in the teleprompter? Like it doesn't
Yes.
it doesn't know that you put a punctuation there. Yeah.
It is, and it look actually question marks and punctuation, exclamation marks as well are points in the conversation where the TCS will read naturally up until that point. But if you've then got follow-on text, it is waiting for either a piece of punctuation or it to be completed before it will read it out.
Got it.
In its entirety.
Yeah.
I guess again, without further ado, let me make a call
let's
in.
do it.
And put it on speaker here.
Welcome to Johnny Cat.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. How about you? Are you planning a trip today?
Yeah, I'm trying to get a taxi from Sydney to Melbourne.
That sounds like quite the journey. Before we proceed, I'll need to verify your phone number. Let me send you a quick verification code. Please hold for a moment. I've just sent a verification code to your phone. Could you please share that code with me to proceed with the booking?
9640.
It looks like the code you provided is incomplete.
Ooh.
Could you please check and provide the full verification code? The verification code is incorrect. Could you please provide the complete code sent to your phone? It seems there might be an issue with the code you provided. If it's all right, let me resend the verification
You can
code to
send
your
it
phone.
as much as you like. So I'll end that there because
It's
debugging live.
no, that's debugging live.
Yeah.
And there's also an issue that I've heard about with a lot of the LLMs, which is like they can't understand an email or sometimes numbers.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
if you actually give a phone number to read out for an LLM, it'll be like 747,937,000,000.
Exactly. Emails the worst. Don't
Yeah.
get an LLM to do it.
Yeah.
But it is sending the message, and I am getting text messages.
Yeah.
In fact, I got 2 messages through.
I love that this is a true omni-channel demo, right? You had a little bit of text coming through there.
Yeah. It's so that one. Well, there's our tool call. Like well, that's our verify send. On the back end, and we probably had a send message. Yeah. Okay. Here it is. Verification code included. I guess again, interest of time. That was a model. Let's change that.
Yeah.
So that was Johnny Cab.
Johnny Cab.
So in Johnny Cab, we were using DeepGram, 11 Labs, OpenAI. I really like Grok because
Let's do
Grok
it.
is super fast.
I haven't played with Grok at all.
It's all the same models, just hardware accelerated. So
cool.
what you'll see here, so before I start again, see this stream text. If you were seeing that last time, you saw that was coming through relatively quickly. And at the end, it'll say here, this GPT completion, well, not that one because I've got no ends label, but I'm hoping that you will see here when I call again is Grok streaming responses are just that much quicker.
Okay.
It almost just like be a page of text without coming through. So let me make a call.
Cab taxis. My name is Johnny, your booking assistant. How can I help?
Yeah, can I get a pizza?
We're a taxi service, not a food delivery, but I can definitely help you get to your favorite pizza spot. Can you please tell me your name, by the way, so I can make this a bit more personal?
My name is Johnny as well.
Nice to meet you, my name. So, I've got you down as my name, and I'll make sure to get your trip just right. Now, where can we take you today?
Can you take me to the moon?
What a coincidence. I wish we could, Johnny, but our taxis aren't quite equipped for space travel just yet. We can take you to the moon of your favorite.
All right, I'll end the call there. I think you get the point.
Everyone in chat is just loving this.
I kind of like I like this model.
That was so fast, by the way, when it popped out.
Speed. Also, even the whole redirection of just like the context of just like, yeah, I can't take, you know, I can take you to your pizza spot. Like I see that you still want pizza, but I can fit into your pizza conversation. And I love the kind of, I was like, ooh, that was smooth. That was, you know, that was good.
It is so much fun. Like, honestly, there's the prompt engineering side, Bianca, is where you spend so much time. So this is it. That is it.
Yeah.
Like,
Did you add a sense of humor? Because even the whole like, haha, funny. You know, like,
not that one. Like this one. It's like clear. Hey, like really simple. You know, some good vibes along the way, right? Maybe that's a little bit.
That's a good vibes. It picked up the good vibes.
I do have another one, which I think it was this one. I gave a bit more of a personality to. This is sort of like a booking service for gambling, I guess. It's like wagering. We call it Game On. And this had some additional context. Maybe not even that one, but you can get really funny.
Yeah.
And what I've found is when we're prompt engineering, if we say, in fact, let's do it live, you know, there's nothing like doing it live.
This is the fun thing about prompt engineering live is you can just like do stuff and it totally changes it.
You are, and you should include small jokes in your response where appropriate. All right,
Love it.
let's save that.
This is a better version of the talk like a pirate. Talk like an Australian.
Add a dad joke in the mix. No, yeah, that was good. That was good.
Okay, let's do that again. Let's do it live.
We're ready.
Welcome to Johnny Cab Taxis. My name is Johnny, your booking assistant. How can I help?
Yeah, I would like to go to Parramatta.
G'day, mate. No worries at all. Before we get started, can you please tell me your name, or have you booked with us before so I can look up your details?
Yeah, my name is Stephen.
G'day, Stephen. Nice to have you on board, mate. I've just checked, and it looks like you've booked with us a few times before. So welcome back to Johnny Cab. How's your day been so far, Stephen? We've had a bit of a crazy morning with the traffic, but don't you worry. Our drivers know all the tricks to get you to Parramatta in no time. Just to confirm, you're headed to Parramatta, but I still need to know where we're picking you up from, mate. Is it from your home, the city, or somewhere else?
Yes, from my home. That's at 1 Fake Street.
Fair dinkum, Stephen. 1 Fake Street. Got it, mate. I've just put that into our system, so we'll get a taxi to your place ASAP. Now, just to recap, we've got...
Yeah, I'll hang up there. But
Did
I
you
think
just say fair dinkum?
he did. And that's, I guess, unprompted or actually prompted. But just, giving the LLM a sense of who it is changes the output. And
Who are you, LLM? You know?
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah,
amazing.
well, can you explain that one to us?
What is fair dinkum? Fair dinkum is like, well, it's used in a couple of different contexts. It can just mean true. It can just mean like, yeah, that is genuine.
Okay.
Is maybe one way to think of fair dinkum. Or it just might be an agreeable statement. Oh, fair dinkum. Yeah, you're doing that today. So, yeah, a couple of different contexts, but it is very Australian. Obviously, saying that, giving it the instruction in the prompt that you're Australian and you should do this works.
Do you ever say unfair dinkum?
No.
Okay.
That sounds weird.
Sorry, the way your face was like, whoa, blasphemy.
I mean,
oh, gosh.
it's logic. Like,
Gosh, no.
yeah. Well, that one just felt more Australian. It felt like the whole vibe was just a little more.
It did. I definitely felt like it was like an inside. Like it was like inside. I was like, yeah, I know this. But even the ability for, I think, even on the aspects of like localization, like the more we can get these things refined, it's like, you know, feeling like, oh, okay, they get me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And you can you could have the same thing. You could have something built into the prompt where if it knows the area code someone's calling from, it changes. Like in theory, you could do that.
Yes.
Yeah,
That'd be pretty cool.
that is
Absolutely.
different vibes.
yeah.
So that
Yeah.
if you're in the South, it's starting to use y'all.
There you go.
No, add a little pizzazz. I guess my other question for you, like, there's the build of Conversation Relay, but I think for customers, for users, like, why are you excited about just Conversation Relay?
Oh, look, Bianca, I'm incredibly excited about this because it is the promise of so many years that we've been saying this is coming, and it has finally landed. I think if I go back to my early days of like speech systems where it was like, say the department that you're after, sales, did you say service? No, like it sucked. The experience sucked. And we built it up to this thing that it was going to take over the world, and it fell short of our expectations. The last couple of years have been sort of a turning point where we've got the intersection of like Lightspeed super networks like Twilio that are around the world, plugging into LLMs that are, now the baseline with speed. They've got to the point where they can be put on rails, and we can have some pretty enjoyable, fun conversations with these things. So I think this technology is going to be pervasive in everything. I remember the movie Her. I'm sure lots of people have watched Her. I feel like we've been aiming towards that in recent times, and we're getting closer every day. I'm a bit of a customer service nerd, as you've probably seen in my background. This technology represents a fundamental shift for contact centers, where it fits in two different worlds. One, self-service just became pleasurable and easy, and you don't really even need to speak to an agent if you're just changing an address, following up an order, canceling an order, things that are just quick and easy. So it is great from that perspective. The flip side is that same technology is now also being used on the agent side or on the worker side to also help them, because you can stream all of this voice out. And we've got some prototypes of Conversation Relay in Twilio Flex, which is the contact center product that we have. And those things work really well together as well. So some really interesting use cases where, and there was a pharmacy that we're working with that, or it's not even a pharmacy, it's a online pharmacy that uses the existing, drug network to get medications to people more quickly. And so for your doctor, they can just lodge a request. Something like Conversation Relay can call the pharmacy, get your prescription ready, and get it dispatched into, like a car to get you your medication really quick. All of that is the same fundamental technology. And you can see, sorry, Bianca, I'm very passionate about this one. The flip side of that is we've seen so many organizations go down like an OpenAI wrapper route. Like they've taken out OpenAI, they're like, we're going to wrap it and we're going to call it our own. And Twilio took a different approach. Twilio went, you know what? There's going to be more of these, and we don't know the answer to that yet. And Conversation Relay was really well architected that you can just plug in the next thing. So when DeepSeek made its noise, a couple of weeks ago, it was integrated the same day because the pattern was already there to bring in the next model, and away we go. So there's more to come on that. I mean, we're going to see another DeepSeek probably within about three to 6 months. So
I think it's going to happen every few months for sure.
Yeah. And we're ready. Plug in, away we go.
I appreciate that we're being very LLM agnostic and really just like creating the pipes, if you will, to route your LLM to where your customers are, because that's hard.
Yeah, and creating just like the best solution. Oh my gosh, like, wow, sorry, didn't mean to cough on y'all. Kano, this was great. This is great. Like, I understand why the hypothetical streets, that include
the
mostly
mean streets
Sarah.
of Twilio.
The mean streets of Twilio, aka also Sarah and crew, but like, Kano, it was such a delight. We hope that you will come and hang out with us again. I just feel like we only scratched the surface. Who knows? We might add a build with Kano, segment here and there every now and then.
Anytime you like.
You
Been
know,
lots of fun.
this was super awesome. Any closing thoughts for folks for, anything you want to plug?
I would, I know very tangentially, but I would plug the unsung hero in a lot of this, which is also Twilio Flex, because it is sort of the secret contact center product that I don't think people even know about yet. They still think Twilio does messaging, and they don't realize that we do this complete whole category of new capability that is sort of that intersection of customer data with the CDP and CCAS. And I think that is sort of a bright spot. And there is an SDK coming that I think your team or the developers on this network would also like to see at some point.
That is so mysterious, but we'll leave it.
Very mysterious but exciting. It's like, okay, yeah, we're you know where to find us.
Something is coming. You're gonna like it.
Ooh, yes.
Basically.
Cool.
And you seem trustworthy, so of course
The
I'm
accent.
joking.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, it is. I think it might be. But yes, this was awesome.
Kano, thank you so much. We're so glad that you came and decided to spend a few minutes here with us. And hopefully we'll see you on stream again soon.
You will. Take care. Thanks, everyone.
Again, thanks to Chris and thanks to everybody who was chatting with us.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Robertables, RJ, a little toe frog at the end there. And then
Frackberg lurking.
Frackberg lurking. Yep. We had Consor King Kong was in there laughing along with us. Thank you everyone for joining us. We will be back at the same time next week with Noah Mogul. Noah is a newer Twilion, but built a huge repo that makes it really easy to spin up AI Assistance, which is another one of our Twilio products that uses CR and helps you build an AI agent. I'm really looking forward to it. I've seen some of his demos and they're going to be great. That's Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern here. And then also a shout out to Chef Brent and Toe Frog Show, the developer lens, which happened last week for the first time and will be happening again on Thursday. Woo! And then we also have our watch party on Friday for Twilio Liftoff. That is the new educational series that Bianca and I and Sarah helped make with Brent producing. We're dropping the email Liftoff tomorrow, a brand new video about email. So if you need to get started with email, and I will be on that watch party on Friday too. So come check out this stream.
It's just Twilio vibes, and also meet us on Discord too. If you're like, wow, I need more Twilio goodness. We just want to keep the conversation going, but we're here. We're pushing out some content. We hope to see you everywhere. But most importantly, we hope to see you next Tuesday, 2 p.m.
Eastern, Twilio Devs Twitch. All right. Bye, everybody.